Okay, good morning, Sunnyvale. Welcome to November. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thank you for joining me again this week for my weekly virtual office hour address. This is the 86th installment. We're slowly working our way to 100 weeks. Um, but I hope everyone's doing well, staying healthy. I hope you enjoyed last weekend, Halloween. We have now reached 597 days since the March 16th, 2020 County Health Order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow COVID-19. It's been a long 19 months, but, I converted my weekly office hours at a coffee shop downtown into this live stream address. I haven't missed a week since, and it's actually been very good for me because it allows me to take stock of the last 2 weeks, provide you some news, some updates, give you some words of encouragement, tell you what's going to be happening. I've been following most weeks up with in-person coffee shop hours on Murphy Avenue. And I've been seeing more and more people attend that. So it's good to see people face to face, sitting outdoors, enjoying coffee or tea, a snack. So definitely feel free, reach out to me if you'd like to meet for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, and I'll add you to my calendar. A few months ago, I started changing my background art every week with art provided by Sunnyvale artists. And today's piece is called Pink Spring, and it's by Chris MacDonough. So if you want to purchase that art, as I've said before, you feel free to reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with that artist. But it's a little early for spring. We're basically seeing the leaves turn reds and orange and yellow right now. But if you are interested, definitely feel free to reach out. Okay, let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, REI had officially opened, and then last weekend, of course, they had their grand opening celebration. So there were giveaways, music vendors, and such. It was good to see the new store. Already purchased a few things, so if you're starting to do your holiday shopping, it's a great place to go. But there were lots of crowds last weekend, and so it's good to see that Sunnyvale was definitely welcoming REI into the community. Last Tuesday evening, council met, and we did several things. We started off the meeting with the annual Public Safety Awards. It's our chance to honor the DPS officers who really demonstrated exceptional performance over the last year. And so, our Department of Public Safety is well loved by our community in general, and it's good to hear some of the events that they had to deal with, as well, whether or not that's delivering babies or finalizing a cold case that's been in closing a cold case that's been open for years. So it's good to hear many of their stories, and it was all virtual. I do think that video is actually good because it actually gives you a better idea of what the dispatchers go through, as well as some of the seeing the faces of some of the officers that are doing hard work in our city. Council also adopted a resolution to continue virtual public meetings. And that's for our city council as well as our boards and commissions and our council subcommittees. But as long as the COVID-19 state of emergency is going on, council will continue to do those remote meetings, and that's based upon a new bill that was signed earlier this year, AB 361. So as long as that state of emergency is continuing on a monthly basis, we have to kind of continue that resolution that we will continue virtual meetings. And at some point we will, I've been talking to the city manager about going back in person probably sometime next year, but looking forward to that. But we'll still, from a resident standpoint, keep a remote option, so that for parents that can't find childcare, for people that don't like to drive at night, they can actually attend meetings or attend the one item on the agenda without having to sit through a long meeting. So I do think it has a lot better community input because of that remote access. So in the long run, that'll be better for residents and for city staff who also don't want to sit through an entire meeting for one item that they need to present on. And then for oral communications at that last meeting, we had about 150 people join, mainly, and 70, 75 spoke, and they were mainly there to talk about the Santa Clara Life Moves project on White Oak Lane. And there were some discussions about the Crestview Hotel and the Bella Vista Hotel, and I'll be talking about those later. I've had lots of discussions over the last 2 weeks with Supervisors Lee, Simidian, Ellenberg, and their staff, as well as council members in Santa Clara. So but it was at the beginning of every meeting we have that opportunity for residents to speak and give oral communication. Definitely, if it goes too long, as after I think almost an hour of oral communication, we ended up saying, okay, let's go ahead and postpone some to the end of the meeting. Most people were there just for the beginning, though. And then we also awarded a contract for design of renovations at the community center grounds, and so this is the community center project grounds were built in 1973, and ultimately it's to improve sustainability and basically also enhance those recreational usability, general attractiveness of that site. It is getting kind of a long in the tooth, and reducing the use of utilities, so making things a lot more green. And so public input meetings will begin later at the end of this year, beginning of next year, to get feedback from neighbors, residents, the park users, other stakeholders on what they'd really like to see. And this is and I've seen kind of a long list of things that they're looking at, new restrooms, replacement of pathways to be more energy efficient, replacement of that ornamental pond, and you have the upper fountain and then the lower pond, and figuring out whether or not we need both of those, construction of playground and picnic areas, which that site doesn't have, and then replacing some of the ornamental grass with, depending upon what areas you're talking about, conceivably with drought tolerant landscaping. So all those sorts of things will be discussed, adding benches, adding tables, and in general just making the site more usable, as opposed to mainly usable for ducks and geese, which I think that's what a lot of people complain about. I think it's nice to have them, but they've taken over so much of that area that it'll be good to at least reduce some of that pond area. And then last Wednesday, Governor Newsom rolled up his sleeve and got his booster shot. So he basically was calling for all Californians to get their booster shots and start making plans to inoculate children. And that, of course, has now come to pass, but we'll talk about that. But the governor urged people to get the vaccine booster as soon as possible, especially with the influx of parents taking their children to go get the vaccine when it's approved. So definitely, from a booster standpoint, third doses of Pfizer and Moderna are for immunocompromised people who are at least 28 days after their last dose. For J&J people, if it's over 18 years of age and older, are recommended to receive the booster. If it's after 2 months since they got their J&J, and then those people who received their second dose of anyone who received their second dose of Pfizer or Moderna at least 6 months ago, whether or not you're immunocompromised or not, is also recommended to get the booster. So definitely the governor was rolling up his sleeve to kind of just get people to get their booster. I got my booster earlier this week actually, so I've got my additional shot, additional protection as we enter the winter months. And of course, last Thursday at a federal level, President Biden and Democratic leaders tried to kind of unite a divided Democratic Party around the social spending package and the infrastructure bills. They released a draft bill last week, which was a $175 trillion proposal. That's of course down from $3.5 trillion where it started. The bill has been in negotiation this week, trying to make sure that all Democrats are on board, and the bill is now $1.86 trillion, and they're trying to get it passed through the House today. So there might be good news from an infrastructure standpoint sometime later today, or my guess is next week. The way things are normally going, it has to go to the Senate again, and we'll see what if there are any changes. Last Thursday, there were two celebratory events, and it's always good to celebrate what's happening in Sunnyvale. Google basically did a groundbreaking for one of their new sites, and so this is the Caribbean site. It's two 5-story buildings, but what's interesting about those is they have sloped green roofs on the south side, so you can basically walk back and forth between floors from the 5th floor down to the ground level. Conceivably even bike there, but there'll be benches and sit areas to sit out there. So it's actually activating a portion of the building that would not normally be activated. And from my standpoint, I really appreciate Google for continuing to innovate, and that ultimately helps the building temperature and heating issues and things of that nature, and cooling issues, as well as creating an iconic building, or two buildings actually. I think that will add a lot to that site. So it's just south of the Smart Station landfill, the big hills there. And then also part of that site, they'll be making changes to the West Channel, so improvements for that West Channel for the valley water, to improve basically flood protection, to make it easier for bicyclists and pedestrians to go through Moffett Park and connect to the Bay Trail. So having a better crossing across Borregas at that point, not Borregas, across Caribbean at that point. So lots of positive things from a pedestrian standpoint, from a biking standpoint, and connecting up to the Bay Trail and kind of going further along that way. So it's good to see. It was good to see some people in person that I haven't seen for a while, and kick off that groundbreaking. And then last Thursday afternoon, Sunnyvale Community Services had their grand opening, and this is their new home on Kern Avenue. So this is right near Sports Basement, or right across from Sports Basement, near Lawrence Expressway. So and the city's been definitely helping Sunnyvale Community Services when they decided that they had outgrown their old building on Arquez near Home Depot, and ultimately or on Kiefer near Home Depot, and ultimately assisted with funding, assisted with purchasing that old Kiefer facility to make that transition possible, so giving them discounted rent, and making sure that lots of assistance in with the permitting process, and making sure that they can get into their new home as quickly as possible. And they moved in this Monday. They finished their move on Monday, so it's happy to see that their new location, which has better community rooms, has a refrigerator, storage that's about 10 times as big as their old location, so that when they get in food, they don't have to immediately distribute it before it goes bad. So that actually is a very positive thing from that standpoint. And it's always just great to celebrate their success. They're a good partner to the city. We give them funding on a yearly basis to help them fund, and especially during COVID, rent and utilities, first and last month's rent, food distribution, the backpacks and school supplies to kids. So they do a lot in our community, and they've been serving Sunnyvale for more than 50 years. So always good to support their efforts, because they do make a difference, and especially the need during COVID has increased so much that I'm happy to see that they have a much larger facility to help with that need. And then last Saturday was a very big Diwali event at Sunnyvale Community Center. So I was happy to work with a lot of local volunteers. There are more than 60 volunteers helping out on that event. Diwali is the festival of lights, and it's that triumph of light over dark, but especially knowledge over ignorance, which is really critical when you look at the last year and a half, and the masks and the vaccines and social distancing and how we can protect people. So it was great to see so many people there. There's about more than 2,000 people was estimated. Lots of music, dancing. The Sunnyvale Art Club had multiple activities for the kids, and so I think it was a good afternoon. I was there for almost the entire event, and happy to be out celebrating with residents, and just being able to be out, seeing people face to face was good. And then last Sunday, of course, was Halloween. The day started with our annual Halloween pet parade. So it went from Redwood Square to Plaza del Sol. So it wasn't that far, but we had, about 100 participants, with between the dogs and their families and all that. But it was great to just see, when the pet parade was restarted 2 years ago in 2019, and it actually came to pass because I asked a resident to undertake that task a few years before, and it took a while for it to get organized and get planned. But the first event was in 2019 after a long hiatus, and then it went virtual last year, but it was back in person this year, and it was just good to see all the different animals, dogs and cats and rabbits, and it was just happy to see people enjoying the day and getting back in person. So happy to, it was a good weekend, very busy weekend last week, but happy to be there. And then on Tuesday of this week, the CDC finally approved the COVID-19 vaccines for children aged 5 to 11. And so the US FDA had given its formal approval of COVID-19 vaccines for children 5 to 11 last Friday. And then, of course, the CDC met and had its panel of experts, and so they approved that on Tuesday. And so then there's been lots of things this week about getting vaccines to students and to kids of that age group. And we'll talk a little bit about what the county's been doing this week a little bit later. And then on Tuesday, the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors met, and ultimately they approved moving forward Project Home Key sites, and those were the Crestview Hotel in Mountain View, and then the Bella Vista Inn in Santa Clara. And both of those are about 65 units or so. So the Crestview Hotel in Mountain View is on about 1.3 acres of land, but it has 66 hotel rooms and 80 parking spaces, all of that. And what the county approved was the acquisition of that site to allow that to be converted into affordable and supportive permanent housing. So it would be people that were previously homeless. It would be other people that were also low income that would qualify for that housing. So that was the Crestview, and I thank Mountain View and the county supervisors, Joe Samiti and staff, for doing lots of outreach over the last 6 months or 9 months. It started in January, and there's been multiple outreach to kind of get public feedback and get hear what residents' concerns were, as well as what they would like to see and what changes they want to make sure is done. Um, and then the other project, of course, was the Bella Vista Inn, which is I think 64 units, and that's in Santa Clara, just just east of Lawrence Expressway. So about half a mile from Sunnyvale. Definitely Bella Vista is farther away. Crestview is right on our border, a block or two away. But ultimately, the county decided to move ahead with both of those projects, getting state project home key funds, also doing some Measure A funds, and looking at the long-term operation of those two sites. And then on Tuesday at a city level, it was announced, Councilmember Fong basically announced that he is resigning from city council. And so he is ultimately he was appointed by Newsom to serve as the governor's deputy director of external affairs for Northern California. So, we might have better representation at a state level, which would be good. But, we're still trying to figure out what the next steps are. So council will figure that out over the next month or so, and whether or not it's to appoint somebody to conduct an election. The biggest issue, of course, is, hopefully, well, it most likely won't be a special election, but at some point next year we might have to run an at-large election, the way the charter is written, which means that even though we're in the process of moving to district elections, and so Mason's term was up at the end of 2022, and at that point, Mason, Vice Mayor Hendricks, Councilmember Larson, their terms would have ended, and then we would be electing 3 district council members in November. That being said, of course, we need to deal with trying to have Councilmember Fong's replacement in, and how that will be done is kind of our next step. And then on Wednesday, the county of Santa Clara announced, of course, it's now providing COVID-19 vaccinations to children age 5 to 11. So after the CDC and the FDA did their approvals, from a federal standpoint, the county had been, preparing to administer vaccinations as soon as possible because of that, waiting for that authorization. And so, they did their first vaccinations already on Wednesday, and those began on Wednesday morning. Currently, of course, only the Pfizer vaccine is the only one that's really approved for that age group, but we have about 167,000 members of our community between ages 5 and 11. So we have a lot of kids that are eligible for that appointment. And then, of course, yesterday, the county actually started giving vaccinations at, so the county and the Santa Clara County Office of Education basically launched a school-based vaccination clinic at school. So there was lots of press yesterday on that rollout, trying to make it as easy as possible for those kids that want to get the vaccine. They can get it as quickly as possible and as easily as possible right at their schools. Okay, let's go ahead and get to our weekly COVID numbers. Definitely COVID cases are stabilizing. From a national standpoint, we've had 46.1 million cases. That's another 500,000 cases. That's the same as last week. Nationally, we've had over 222 million vaccinated with at least one dose, and so that's at least 80% of adults, and almost 70% of adults are fully vaccinated. And then as far as deaths, we still have people, dying from COVID-19, 7,000 just in the last week. So we're now at 747,000 deaths that have some COVID-related issue. And then for a California standpoint, we've had 4.6 million positive tests or positive cases within our state. That's up to about 5,000 new cases a day now. That's up from 4,700 last week. So we're seeing a slight uptick from a state standpoint. And we've had almost 72,000 fatalities. That's another 350 deaths just in the last week. On a positive note, we've had 53.5 million vaccines administered, about over a million just in the last week. Of course, that's I think part of that is starting to see the rollout already for the youth. And then we're still at number 10 on states with at least one shot at 75%, and then with residents with only one shot at 75%, and then still at number 15 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated at 62%. So we're keep maintaining about the same. The county keeps doing a fantastic job. They're getting people tested, they're getting people vaccinated. Yesterday they reported a new cumulative case of 147,000 people. That's up about 1,200 since last week, and that's up from 1,000 a week ago. So we're seeing a slight uptick locally from new cases. We've had 1,849 deaths. That's 8 additional deaths in the past week. But congratulations, we finally received a new milestone. 90% of our county residents age 12 and older have at least one dose, and more than 85% of those 12 and older are fully vaccinated. So that's fantastic news. We are getting to those very high thresholds. The 85 and 90% numbers are really kudos to everyone in the county, working for all the county health, as well as everybody that's stood in line and got their shot, as was suggested. I continue doing a lot of advocating on our city's behalf at the county level. Talking to county health, talking to our county supervisors, for testing. County is doing testing 2 days a month, the first Thursday and the third Thursday. So they were here yesterday, and so that'll be done at the Sunnyvale Community Center. And all you need to do is like 7 days, and that's from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. The first and third Thursday, but about 7 days before appointments open up, and they'll be open until they get filled. So if you want to get tested, you can do that on a bi-weekly basis without problems now. And you just go to sccfreetest.org and sign up there, or see all the other locations around the county where the county is doing that testing. And then if you need to get vaccinated, you visit one of the many drop-in vaccination clinics, and go to sccfreevax.org. That's what I did earlier this week. Is just see what locations are there, and I was in and out in about 45 minutes. So definitely, I've heard issues at some locations, but even with people with appointments, and I had no problems of getting in and out. The county has been doing it so much, and the pop-ups is good because it's different locations around the county, and makes it easier for where you might be on a specific day, or if it's close by, just dropping in and getting your shot, seeing how long the line is, and coming back if you need to. Next, I wanted to update you on some upcoming events. So today, of course, is the deadline, as I said before, for submissions to our boards and commissions. So we have 2 positions open, our Personnel Board and Planning Commission. So definitely consider filling out your application if you're interested in applying. That's due by 4 p.m. today, of course, and then the interviews will be scheduled for November 16th. So definitely, if you want to get involved, those are 2 commissions, but we take applications for our boards and commissions year-round, and on a quarterly basis, depending upon what positions are open. We then go back and do interviews. On Sunday, So don't forget to, of course, set your clocks back. It is daylight savings time again, and so there's a national push to make it one time across all the U.S. and kind of end daylight savings time. Uh, it happens, I think, almost on a yearly basis. So we'll see. California is one of those states that's actually pushing that. So we'll see what happens. But don't forget, at least you um, get an extra hour of sleep this weekend. So enjoy that extra hour. Figure out what you're going to do with that extra hour in your day, or an extra hour of sleep if that's what you need. And then this Monday, November 8th, is um, the deadline. So at 5 p.m. on Monday is the deadline for our Sunnyvale Public Art Program, and this is the utility box cover up program. And so artists are invited, have been invited to apply. It was basically designed, and you see this in other cities. We've had a few in our city, but this is a big program to transform, I'll say, those gray, boring utility boxes to something that's attractive and engaging from a work of art standpoint. So 12 artists or artistic teams will be selected to design and execute original works of art using utility boxes as their canvases, mainly focused in the first phase in downtown and then in other parts of the city. So happy to see that that's moving forward. You can go to the Sunnyvale website and search for the Great Box Cover Up if you want to get more information. Later in November, basically, only 2 weeks away. The ice skating will be returning to Sunnyvale, and so on November 19th, the ice skating rink will reopen, and this time it won't be on the Redwood Square parking lot. It'll actually be moving to the Macy's parking lot along Washington Avenue, but happy to see that. That'll be here from November 19th through January 2nd. So definitely, come out and enjoy the fun. Be out in the fresh air. I think we had a lot of people who enjoyed that 2 years ago, and of course, with last year during COVID, they decided not to conduct that. So happy to see that that's back in our community. And then as far as upcoming council meetings, our next meeting is Tuesday, November 9th. So next Tuesday, we'll start with a study session on the golf subsidy, and we've been talking about that for a while now. From a golf standpoint, definitely it's always a question of how much you fund these and supplement the cost of operations. So like parks we get very little from picnic area fees for parks, so parks are always fully funded from a city standpoint. Similarly, from a golf standpoint, if it was a big park, it would be a lot of money put out from the city, but if people are actually utilizing it, and this year we've actually had a lot of people utilize our golf courses, and so because of that, we've actually, I think, come close to breaking even. And this is the question of how much we want to subsidize golf in the long run. It's good to have all kinds of indoor and outdoor services that we're providing to residents. So we'll see how that goes. In the main meeting, we'll actually be approving funding. So that's one of the things in front of council, to approve the funding of an art master plan project. And this would be to do art on prefabricated sculptures that are then modified by artists. And so I think you probably have seen the hearts in San Francisco, or the sharks in Silicon Valley. I think there are also bulls and pigs in different cities, but this will kind of looking at approving that program, and then the details of figuring out what those pre-manufactured sculptures are, and then doing a similar call for artists would happen later. And, whether or not that's that's pieces of fruit for Sunnyvale, or we actually are trademarked as the heart of Silicon Valley. So whether or not we want to do something of that nature, it's still will be seen at a later date. But that's one of the things that we'll be discussing on Tuesday night. And then on Tuesday the 16th, November 16th, Council will have a study session on reviewing the new state housing laws and what the city is looking at doing. So we'll do that on the 16th, and then review what those ordinance changes will be at the beginning of December. So that is moving forward. There's been lots of state laws that have been written and signed into law, and now it's we need to make some changes so that we just don't go de facto. And some of those state laws are requiring objective standards, so making sure that we are putting those into our codes or responding to the codes accordingly. And then on Tuesday, November 30th, Council will look at approving the final design for the 6.5-acre park that's around the Redwoods near the old AMD campus. So that's right near the San Miguel neighborhood. And so, that was supposed to be initially next week, and it needed a little more work from a report to council. So it moved off to that meeting at the end of November. So, but I think it's really good to be able to add a new park, especially in that area which is underserved as far as parks are concerned. So happy that that's there. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. If you have a question, go ahead and add it to the comments now. But here are some of the questions that I got over the last week. Molly asked, what is the latest on the Target reopening? So, definitely I get this question a lot over the last month or so. Everybody's hoping for Target to reopen as soon as possible. City inspectors were actually doing inspections yesterday, but I haven't heard what their final results are. Initially Target said that they wouldn't be opening until January, but we are hoping that it'll be early December. We'll see how their work has gone, how that permitting, reviewing the work that they've done. So I'll have hopefully better news next week, but it's great to see that they want it to open as quickly as we do. So happy to see that that's there. Christian asked, yesterday my $400 electric scooter was stolen from outside my home. Is there anything I could have done? What could be done to combat this in Sunnyvale? So, definitely we always hear about, thefts, and next door is, often like, oh, this is a crime wave or whatever. So there are definitely items being stolen. DPS is constantly doing detective work and other efforts to basically stop that theft, whether it's packages from front porch or bikes or scooters or other things. But one of the things that can be done is a neighborhood watch program. And neighborhood watch programs are good because they increase communication between the police and neighborhoods. They encourage neighbors to just look out for each other and expose potential thieves before they strike. And so I think that's one of the things that you could do if you want to. DPS will help set up that program. It's just neighborhood leaders have to kind of plan and implement that program, work with residents. So DPS will help set that up. And have an appointment to do a group meeting, a Zoom meeting, an in-person meeting, whatever residents want. So if you just want to do that, you can always call DPS at 408-730-7140 and ask about starting a neighborhood watch program. And I think several neighborhoods have done it, and it really does make a difference. Next question, Luau asked, I recently learned about the plot of land at 2035 White Oak Lane is being considered as a site for construction to up to 75 units of interim housing for City of Santa Clara's unhoused residents. I'm very concerned about the project affecting our neighborhood. Although the site is physically in Santa Clara, in the city of Santa Clara, the second order effects of having this shelter at this location will also be felt in Sunnyvale. And I've mentioned earlier, I've talked to County Board of Supervisors. I've also talked to multiple Santa Clara County or Santa Clara City Council members about this site. The county doesn't have any plans to support it. It's mainly the city, and I've been by the site, and it seems a little small for a Life Move site. I really like the Life Move site in Mountain View, but this site is right on Lawrence Expressway. It's right near a major intersection. It's I do think that it would have some effects, but I did get Santa Clara to make sure that they add a web page to describe what they're planning. And ultimately, it's a partnership between the city of Santa Clara and Life Moves, and it's looking for 60 to 75 units of emergency interim housing, and they're still exploring the feasibility. So, the next public opportunity for public comment is November 9th. So next Tuesday night at the City Council meeting for Santa Clara, they'll have a study session. And so that's one of the times they'll be getting an update on general unhoused population in Santa Clara, as well as this possible home key site. This is the best. If you want to make your voice heard, this is your opportunity to talk to them. I think that's one of the things that our council meeting or another council meeting, that's one of the positive things about COVID is they have call-in numbers and Zoom meetings just like most councils right now. Let's see. Tony asked, how can we find out more information about the 3 affordable projects? So I kind of mentioned that the city of Santa Clara has on their webpage, if you search for, I think, santaclaraca.gov/homekey, you list at the bottom, they list the 2 home key projects, or one of which is this project on White Oaks, and then the other project is the Bella Vista Hotel. And then if you go to the City of Mountain View website, you can find out all about the Crestview project, which was also approved this week. Patsy asked, how can we help keep downtown Murphy Avenue closed to pedestrians only? And so, I've said this before, I love having I love having dinner outside, and it seems so European, where you see multiple areas that are outside cafes, whole squares that are closed down. And I've encouraged people to continue writing letters to council, to the city manager. I think that does make a difference, that ongoing supportive effort. Keep telling your businesses that you enjoy Murphy Avenue being closed. Definitely, going down there on a week, especially on a weekend afternoon and evening, you see it's very busy. But on December 7th, so our first meeting in December, council will review another resolution directing the city manager to continue to allow temporary outdoor dining on private parking lots, as well as closing the 100 block of South Murphy until September 30th of 2022. And then, of course, the plan right now is to kick off a studies issue next year to look at the long-term closure of Murphy Avenue. So that will, so what comes in front of us in December, that first meeting in December, is a discussion of doing another temporary extension while we continue to look at what it takes to do that, and what the long-term effects, what the cost breakdown is to close that, what additional funds we don't get from the state because we closed a portion of our street. All those things are taken into consideration. David asked what is happening with the parking lots downtown. So EVgo we've partnered with EVgo, and EVgo is adding new charging stations um, in the city to basically advance that infrastructure network for support of EVs. So the parking lots at Sunnyvale Avenue in Evelyn and the parking lots at Francis and Evelyn ultimately will have EVs. So a portion of them are closed down while they're installing those EV chargers, and then also there'll be EV chargers at the community center. So all that is positive from that standpoint to see providing that infrastructure, which so many people ask for. Definitely we have apartment complexes that don't have that and would really like to see it, but ultimately we'll see how quickly we can add it to other portions of the city. We're mainly looking at adding it on public land, so city-owned land where we can. Definitely there are several parking lots in shopping malls and shopping areas around the city that have started adding EV chargers. So the Safeway parking lot at Bernardo and El Camino being one of them. But a lot of the shopping centers around the city are also considering adding that infrastructure as much as possible. EVgo is a good partnership from that standpoint. Let me see if there are any other questions. What is being built at the corner of Fremont and Monet? So at the corner of Fremont and Monet is senior housing. So or at least that's what I saw that it was going to be when I last saw the proposal. But it's conceivably senior housing at and there's artwork in front and other things. But I think it's a good design from what I saw, seeing initial designs, and it went through the planning commission a few months ago. But the fences are up around. The old church has been torn down. The fences are up, and I don't know if the church has found a new home or not yet. I think that's it. Oh. Yeah, my 8-year-old has Cynthia asked when my 8-year-old has a very important question: when does Target reopen? And I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. I'm hoping by December, beginning of the first week of December, it will be open. But there'll be a lot of happy people, myself included, when we finally have that reopen. So I think that's it for questions, at least in a quick glance through. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm always proud of our city. I'm proud, especially during the last year and a half during COVID, how residents have banded together, help others, distribute food, distribute blankets, clothes, just doing what they can to help their neighbor. The future is still uncertain. New issues continue to come up pretty much every day, but your actions always make a difference. Sunnyvale ultimately will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together, and we will get through this together. Thanks for listening. Stay dry as the rains move in next week, and have a great weekend. Take care. Goodbye.